Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and this video was supposed to release on the 19th, but we had those leaks and they got delayed. But there's one thing that's very certain, I'm a big fan of Slaanesh. It is my favourite monogod faction. I've spent years playing Slaaneshi factions on the tabletop, and I mean not just Warhammer Fantasy, but Age of Sigmar, 40k and 30k too. And naturally when it comes to Total War Warhammer I do that too. Now, there is supposed to be a DLC for Slaanesh at some point, I don't know exactly when. It was part of the original roadmap, but yeah, things have changed. We don't know if that roadmap is staying the same, rumors suggest otherwise, but there's a lot of stuff that I would love to see for Slaanesh in an effort to finally flesh out the roster a little bit more, get some legendary lords in, and yeah, in general, just have a little bit of fun. So we're going to talk about that today in this video because, yeah, I just like Slaanesh. I don't think I need a reason. So in Thrones of Decay, the Nurgle faction got 5 new units, 1 generic Lord choice, 1 generic hero, a paid-for legendary Lord, a legendary hero which was unfortunately only available for that faction, and an FLC legendary Lord. I'm assuming that if we're going to get more monogod-based DLCs in the future, we will likely get the same kind of layout, though the legendary hero needs to be for everyone. The Kasich thing I understand, but yeah, it needs to be for everyone. So for a Lord and Hero choice, it's very basic. Sorcerer Lord of Slaanesh for the Lord option, so basic kind of unit and so on. It's just your Spellcaster Lord, right? And then obviously an Exalted Hero of Slaanesh for the hero option, just in case you want a melee hero option. Obviously these are not the most exciting things when it comes to the new additions, but the thing is, right, it's always better to have them and not need. I for one would have loved to have a melee hero in a previous campaign that I played, so it'll be good to have. If they want to do something very interesting with a hero, as most of the heroes were actually pretty much just sword and board, maybe they want to just give the hero a whip, right? Hellscourge would be kind of cool on a hero. Make it kind of defensive, but also still fairly aggressive. The sorcerer would have a, well, staff and a sword. I mean, they don't really need anything else. They're casting magic, and they're pretty damn good at that too. What would make them a lot more interesting would be adding this as a mount option for all the generic Lord and Hero options of Slaanesh. Now, these are normally called a Steed of Slaanesh, sometimes called Poop Snakes, usually by me, and we're going to call it an Exalted Steed just to not confuse with the standard steed, right? So, what makes these really interesting is they're supposed to be very, very fast. It's a demonic mount, so they're supposed to be stronger too. Think about it this way. Right now we have demonic mounts for, well, the other 3 factions. We've got the Juggernauts for Khorne, the Disc of Tzeentch for Tzeentch. I know that doesn't really count as a heavy mount, but it is still a demonic mount and it's pretty good at what it does. And then obviously Nurgle recently got the Rot Beasts, which are freaking amazing by the way, and everyone can mount up on them. So it would be really cool if we had a stylized mount for Slaanesh too, which was a thing in Sixth, well, pretty much just for Steercar, but yeah, I mean, this is the same thing as the Rot Beast situation. Now, imagine if these mounts get added in, which kind of makes sense, considering that they're missing. We'll probably see them in 2 units, I think. I mean, it just kind of makes sense to do so. The first thing is the Pleasure Seekers. This is a demonette mounted on a boob snake, which, yep, it was a Storm of Chaos monster, really cool. They used to come in small groups, but again, this would be treated like the Juggernauts and so on, so they'd be fairly large. These should be able to be just really fast attack monstrous mounts, being super, super quick, and also just being quite durable, because obviously demons are still demons, having all the benefits that a Slaanesh demon would normally get too, so they'd be considered pretty high tier. Then I would imagine that we'd get one with knights on it, Knights of Slaanesh, so let's call them Pleasure Knights because these weren't actually a thing on the tabletop. The thing is, though, a lot of people have been asking for it, Creative Assembly are likely aware, and Games Workshop would likely make some concessions for this to make sure that the mortals are represented fully, just like Doom Knights who weren't a thing on the tabletop. And they'll take credit on it in a blog where they'll go, oh, this was never there before. So I imagine Pleasure Knights being very similar to that of the Pleasure Seekers. The only difference is they might be a little bit slower because they've got a heavier knight, you know, fully armored and so on, being able to slow it down. But you'd have a halberd or a spear, you know, it would be great for chargers, a shield too, so they'd be very defensive, very high armor too. So what you're losing in speed, you're getting in defenses. I know a lot of people might say that's a lot of cavalry, but Slaanesh is known for speed, so I guess it kind of makes a lot of sense. Plus, I mean, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I want them both. and this is kind of like a wish list for me. If you're listening, Creative Assembly, please, both. Next, we'd get a foot trooper known as the Slangors. Now, this is a really interesting thing, because they would likely just have some sort of great weapon or whatever. I could see them being done with throwing javelins, having Slaanesh with a little bit of range, I guess. The reason why I'm thinking about this is because the mobile game Chaos and Conquest represents them like the art that you're seeing on screen. And the more I see it, the more I like it. It just kind of makes sense. It'd be very different to what they originally were, but it would separate the Slangors from everything else, as right now we've got the very tanky shield and hand weapon with Tzeentch, right? The Zangors. The Pestigors have great weapons. The Khorngors are likely to have dual weapons. Having a ranged version would be kind of cool, because first up, great for Slaanesh, fits with the theme, especially as if you even look at what they did with Age of Sigmar, they started adding in like bow units and stuff, right? Obviously we won't get the Age of Sigmar stuff, but this, I mean, just works. And yeah, I mean, it would just work with the Beastmen, right? Having multiple types of God-Touch Gors are going to make for really interesting armies. Honestly, it just makes a lot of sense, so yeah, I mean, why not, right? I could imagine that there would be a pushback from Games Workshop, though. So if there is, then probably just hand weapon and shield. But if anyone from GW is listening, this would help out the Beastmen tremendously, and it would just be nice to have a range unit with Slaanesh, seeing as you guys are too scared to mix up the timelines a little bit in terms of units. Bowmen would exist with the Warriors of Chaos. It's something that we know about in lore, but yeah. Now, when it comes to something big, because there's always a big monster for Chaos, I think the gigantic Chaos Spawn could work really, really well. This creature just reminds me of Slaanesh. I think it's just the extra appendages and so on. CA do love adding stuff from Forge World, and to be honest, I mean, it just fits. Making a Slaanesh thing, kind of like for some reason the Mutilative Vortex Beast ended up being a Tzeentchian creature when it's supposed to be undivided. This could work quite well. It's supposed to be very fast, very durable, very attacky. I mean, it's a Chaos Spawn, but just huge in single entity. Who doesn't want that? It's going to be a giant, unbreakable monster, and yeah, I mean, it's cool, man. I remember buying this model a long time ago and painting it up. It was so satisfying, even with that old school Forge World resin, which is kind of bastardy to paint. But yeah, it's so good. It is so good. And I think it would be great for Slaanesh to have a fast-moving, giant Chaos Spawn, something which is really, really tanky, because if you're not using a lot of Warriors of Chaos, you are taking a lot of hits, so you want something with a high health pool. There is one missing unit, and this is kind of something that I don't like, because my mind is telling me that they're going to give us Centigors of Slaanesh, so Slanigors? Centihors? Yeah. Or whatever. And probably with throwing weapons, which would fit in quite well, but it's kind of paying for the same thing twice, which just, I don't know, man, it just doesn't fit with me. Unless they do something very, very different, which we already kind of got that with the Tzeentch DLC, right? And I just didn't like that either. I kind of would prefer Marauder Horsemen with flails, because Creative Assembly don't seem to use flails as much as they should, and they were a key weapon in the tabletop back in the day, so fast cavalry with flails to be really good chargers. Again, another cavalry unit, but then again, the Centigors would be the same. There's always going to be a unit that I'm not going to like in a DLC, same as everyone else, and if it ends up being the Centigors, I could see that happening, but yeah. Then we have to look towards the legendary lore, with which the only one I can see is T'Challa. Since Thrones of Decay introduced a mortal character, I think that they're going to keep on with this trend, and to be honest, T'Challa the Denied is a pretty cool character. A former high elf that was screwed over by her family, literally her father basically sold her off to a Slaaneshi demon, who now serves Slaanesh in an effort to keep away from said demon, but also has kinda wanted to get revenge on all the other high elves that kinda screwed her over. Her family, and pretty much every other elf, to be honest. She's a snake lady, as you can see, so there's something really unique about her. She's going to be able to move around fairly quickly. She's got multiple arms, and yes, I know that the model doesn't look great. It's pretty old, let's be very clear here. This was from a way long time ago, but she would be great at melee combat, having stances in an effort to basically rip apart anything. She should be the ultimate blender lord, comparable to that of Deathmaster Snicketch, but just not as good as killing characters, I'd say. army, but really good at taking out hordes. She's not going to have a mount, but to be honest, not every character needs a mount. This is something the Creative Assembly need to learn a little bit again, and really, it would be a unique character. Uniqueness is super important when it comes to adding new DLC characters. For a legendary hero, available to all Slaaneshi factions and Chaos Warriors of Slaanesh, would be Stirka. This is something very important because while Kasich is very, very cool, yeah, only having him with Tamkon is a bit disappointing. I mean, you can confederate Tamkon and get him, but yeah, you know, it's not great. Stirka is another heavy cav. He'll be mounted on one of the Exalted Seekers, and yeah, we've used this model for the preview of the Pleasure Knights, which is pretty much just going to be the same thing. This is what happened with Kasich, by the way, and the Rot Knights too. So, heavy cav, very strong. I could imagine him boosting up cavalry too. Yes, it's pretty much the same functionality as Kasich, but at this point, I mean, it makes a lot of sense with Slaanesh to have a cavalry-focused character. I suppose they could do another character, but there's really not a lot of Slaanesh characters in Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Really, we've already got the main 3. And then lastly, I'm expecting an FLC Legendary Lord for Slaanesh in the form of the Mask. Now, the reason why I'm thinking this is because, I mean, Epidemius was there for Thrones of Decay. It would make sense. Have 3 characters total, all of them being distinct. The Mask is just a demonette of Slaanesh. She's a herald which moves around, dances everywhere. She cannot stop dancing, which, you know, in other words, egg clone, essentially. And combat-wise, she should be able to use those dances too. The only thing is, she was never there to lead an army. People would follow her, but from a distance, I guess. You know, they just kind of follow her dancing. This doesn't really matter anyway, because, I mean, you know, we've got assassin-based characters as legendary lords who shouldn't be able to lead armies anyway, so I think that she would be kind of cool. She's very unique. I like her, and to be honest, like I said, there's no other characters, I guess. Yeah, I've been looking through it. There's loads of unnamed and unmodeled stuff. We've got like a Slaaneshi Demon Prince and so on, but we've got Azazel. You know, the same thing. There's no point getting another Keeper of Secrets when we've got Nakari. And I wouldn't really expect any more Slaanesh things after a potential Slaanesh DLC. Like, seriously, I'm expecting this or something akin to this, and then it's done. The race is practically sorted now. So, yeah, I think this would be a really good option. It would be nice because she's a fan favorite too. And this would complete Slaanesh. There would be nothing else. Whereas Nurgle still has some content, and I'm expecting an End Times DLC. But I think as me being a massive Slaanesh fan, I would be perfectly content with this, and then we could look towards what else is missing for the rest. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below to start a bit of a discussion. I'm rather curious to see what you guys think about this, because I know it's not the most loved monogod faction. I'll be very, very clear about that. Like, I'm fully aware, but yeah, it's the one that's for me. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Keep in mind that, once again, replies will be a bit slow right now because I am in England sorting out some stuff. I'll be going, I think, when this video goes live, possibly to Warhammer World. I still haven't, like, decided the the schedule for the videos. But have a great one, and yeah, see you soon.